Welcome to Tech Brothers with Amir. In this video, we are going to learn how to create Ssrs report dynamically with the dynamic table schemas, dynamic table or view names, and dynamic columns. So I don't know this title makes sense to you guys or not, but I'm going to explain what exactly I'm talking about and what could be the requirement, why we are creating all these dynamic things or reports. Now think about a scenario. I have let's say I have 20 tables or some of the views, and I want to create the detail or simple reports for all those views. One thing, I can go ahead and create 20 reports or depending on the number of the views and tables I have that. Second part, I can create something where I can ask the user, hey, select your schema, okay, select your table and select the fields you would like to see, and the report should be auto generated depending upon those criteria. So that's one of the requirement. Second, I have seen a lot of requirements coming from you guys where people ask, hey, I would like to design a report where I can show a drop down for my schema. So in this case, let's say we have this schema, DBO. Once I show that schema, I would like to show the tables in that schema. Okay, fine. And then I would like to show the columns for that criteria. So DBO.customer, and these are the columns related to that table. And once I select that and hit view report, it should generate the report for those columns from this table. So this gives us a lot of flexibility. And especially think when your users, first I explain you guys where you have a lot of tables of views and you want to just simple show the detailed report. You are not doing a lot of drop downs and drill through reports and all that. Just simply you want to show the columns and data. That's where we can use that. Other part is where your users, you don't want to give them permission on the SSMS. They can't install the SSMS on their machines, and you don't want to give them permission on the database. So by doing this type of report, they will still able to go there, select the schemas, select the tables and fields, what they would like to see. So in this case, see, if I want to remove the ID, I can just remove the ID, refresh my fields, and it will show me the report. Let's change to one more schema. Let's say TB Tech Brothers, and I select only one table is there, so it show me that table, and now I can see all those columns there. Now here you can select those columns or select all and hit view, and you can see that your report is ready to see. You can see that and export into Excel if you would like. Now that's great. In a previous video, like a couple of months ago, I did one video where I showed you guys how to handle the situation where the number of columns can change for your view or a table. So I showed you guys the that report as well, because there are so many scenarios. Sometimes people remove the columns and or add a columns and you would like to show in your report. I recommend that watching it. It's the same concept. So let's go ahead and create this report. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and create the shared data source. I already have created. So right click here, provide the name and the connection string. Second part, you will be coming to the reports tab, right click here and say add new item. Now provide the name. I'm going to call this one dynamic report. I'm going to tell you guys at the end, like there are some I don't know, there are some bad practices in this way of reporting, but most of the time when you have small tables and not whole lot data, this works just fine. But if you have hundreds of thousands of record, it might take long time to display the data or bring the data. So but it's a good thing to learn. Go ahead and start creating a report here. Now let's go to our store procedure. So I'm going to show you guys what store procedure I'm using here. So I wrote this store procedure. So I have alter, you can have create. I'm going to put the script on the post, and the link will be in the description, so you can take from there. So you write procedure name. I'm going to call this one DBO report. It's acceptance schema name, table name, and column list. So you see that I'm saying watch your max. It means I want to save a lot of columns, and in our previous scenario where I showed you guys, even you can select let's say one table and then you will have all the columns. So this can grow pretty huge when you have let's say 20, 30 or 50 columns. You want to save that. Come back here and say as begin. That's how you start your store procedure. Now I'm declaring some variables here. Declare at the rate column names and declare at the rate column name var. So here I will build the list. Here I'm going to get the list of the columns. So I will be getting something like this. So I will get, let's say, ID, name, and address. And what I need, I will be putting the parentheses around in my procedure, and also I will be converting these column, because you see this is integer, this is name is varchar, and this is also varchar. So I will be converting to the varchar for the unpivot, otherwise it's going to throw me error. Okay, so I have these two variables. Here I'm creating some tables. So these temp tables will be used during my process. So the very first is called temp underscore data. This is a global temp table, so I can use in my dynamic SQL and still extract the data after the dynamic SQL session will be completed. Now here I'm using another table called the temp data final, that will use the end when we will put the results at or the records from the unpivot query output. And here I'm using just a simple this is a local temp table just to build the column list. And okay, I drop every time and recreate them. Here I'm just dropping them, and I will create them at whenever I need them. Here first let's create this table. So once this column list table is created, I insert the values. So remember, I get depending upon the criteria, I get that values here in the store procedure input, and that's like ID, comma, name, address, or whatever people select from here. So in this case, let's say if we select all these, it will be ID and object name that will pass to this part. So I will insert in the table. Why I'm inserting in the table? Because I want to concatenate that and build something like that. So first I want to do this part. I want to add the parentheses around, because there could be possibility my columns there are space between my column names. So let's say if I have a F name, so maybe first name, something like that for one table. If I have that, I would like to put the parentheses around, otherwise I will start getting error. Now that's one part. Also when I use the unpivot query, I need here I need all the column types of the same data type, otherwise it will throw me error. And you see that if somebody pass ID, that's integer type, first name is varchar and this one is varchar as well, and they have different data types. So if I will use in the pivot, I will get error. So I put in a table. Once I put in the table, and then it will be like ID, comma, name, and then it will be address. So once it get into this, then I add the parentheses, add the cast function to them right here. So you see that I'm adding the cast and all that, and varchar 1000. So I converted everything to the varchar 1000. Once it's converted, then at the end, if you see here, I reconcatenate the kind of thing and bring them back in this shape. So I bring them in the parentheses. First part I create with the parentheses. The second part I create sorry, this is first just the name. So first name or whatever the columns are. So address, and this is one I create is called column names, and the other one is column names var. So where I say cast ID, so sorry, as varchar 1000. So this is how it create them for me as ID. So this will keep adding them like this, so I can use in the unpivot right here. So I created these things and saved into variables here, and here I use common table expressions to just first once they are in the table, they are comma separated values. I use the XML and cross apply to make them in the rows first, and then finally again I concatenate them to make comma separated values, as I showed you guys here. so I can use them in my unpivot query. And then here what I'm doing, I'm declaring a variable called SQL, and then I'm declaring another variable called @temp table SQL, and here I'm setting the value called select row number, and I'm creating a row number for each of the record and say column names. So I have the column names and from here, and then say into, so this is where I've put first all the records into the temp data table and from the schema and table. So that comes from our input parameter of a store procedure. So by doing this one, then I will have all the data in temp table, and then I will have the row number. The next part, once I have the data, I use unpivot here. So right here, execute it, then again I use this query, unpivoted, and execute it, and dump the data into the our final table. So, and finally execute. If you don't have this one, and you will might be surprised, like, okay, why you are using this temp table here? If you execute, you should be getting the output. Yeah, I will, but SSRS, I felt like there are some problems when it's executed, it doesn't show the columns, and I have to go and write sometime, and that's not really behaving. I was getting errors, so I thought might be writing the data into the temp table, and then selecting is all my problem. So that's why I did all that. I'm going to do one thing here. So I'm gonna print these select statements or whatever the statements and show you guys, so you can see that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we can actually let's execute, and now I'm going to go ahead and provide some values to this store procedure, so you can see if I have something on top. No, I don't. And we say execute this store procedure. The schema is DBO, and I'm going to use the table called customer, and then the column, let's say ID, comma name, comma address. If I use this one and execute, now you will see some printed here. See, this is one of the print statement we use to load the data into this. So you can see that I have remember I have added the parentheses around each of the column. So you do that and then dump the data into the temp table. If you don't want to just run it, you can run, and you can see that I have ID, name, and address, and I added this row number with them. Then let's see what other part was there. And then here I use the unpivot query. So I don't really care because we didn't run this statement, that's why this is coming through the error. So once we uncomment, this should be fine. Now if we want to just take this part out, you don't want to insert into, and I write this unpivot. So you are selecting R, and from this table we didn't create that table, unpivot. Let me show you here, and this is where I was talking, like I converted each of these columns or cast it to the varchar 1000, because we would like to have same for the unpivot, otherwise it will throw us error. So here as we didn't write the data into the temp data table, so we are still getting this errors. It's not going to work, but that's the whole thing. You have these column list that you provide with the parentheses, and then you cast them to the varchar. If you have a bigger column, let's say you have a varchar 4000 or something, some of the columns you have to change in your query right here in your store procedure right here. So you come here and change it. Now in our case that's pretty much it. I'm gonna remove the execute part and comment the print part, and then let's execute our store procedure again. I'm taking this very slow because I don't want to just fly on the things. I want to show you guys what exactly the technique I'm using. So see, at the end what happened, we are only getting 2 columns, so 3 actually. One is R, that's the row number, and then we have column name and column value. Why I'm doing it? Because with the SSRS, as the columns are changing, so see, you are selecting any schema. Let's say we are selecting TB selecting this table, and then you can select any columns. So if I will use the tablets here, it's not going to work because my column list is changing whenever the user can select anything from the column list. So I don't know how many columns he will select. So I have to build something dynamic. And that's where what I did, I have the column names and column value, and then I have R is just a number that comes with it because we added the row number, and then I use the matrix. So instead of using tablets, I use the matrix item in the SSRS to handle that. So if you see here, because the matrix can expand automatically depending on the number of the values. So once you select the column, if you have more columns, it's going to expand automatically, and then you will see the values. So that's why I did all this work, like bring the columns, okay, bring the columns here, select the schema, select the tables, bring the column list, and then select all the data from that table into the TempDB, and then use the unpivoted and only show the data into the column and the value. So once you have those two, you are good. Now let's go ahead and take this store procedure and create our SSRS report. The whole script is going to be available on the TechBrothersIT.com. You will find the link in the description, so you can use it. You don't have to make any change really, but it is good idea to understand. Sometime, let's say you want to add one more filter or date or where clause maybe with so you would know that okay, this is where the data is filtered. So if you have another column, say okay, select this from this table, and you want to put a where clause, you can do it. I did not use the where clause here. I could have say okay, select the column for where clause, and then select that and say value, and then say greater than, equal to, less than, or like, and give them the option, and they can select that. So they can even filter the data further. But I don't want to go further in detail here. You can build these things dynamic, and you see that this is where you will come back and add those parameter values. All right, now let's go back here and create our report. Dynamic report. First of all, we are going to go to data sources, right click, add data source, and call this one DS Tech Brothers. And then we are going to use the shared data source. Okay, select that one. Now go to data set, add data set, and here I'm going to call this one D set report data, and I'm going to use embedded and TechBrothersIT, and here I'm going to tell okay, use the store procedure, and the name of the report, the store procedure is a report. Now if I will go and hit okay, it's going to bring me R, that's the row number, and this is our column name and value. This looks awesome. So you see that 3 parameters are also created: schema name, table name, and column list. Now if I will run this report, it's asking me provide me schema name. I can type it if I want, but it will be a good idea, so we will have these values coming from the drop downs. So I'm going to go ahead and create 3 more data sets to populate these parameters. Let's create the very first, called the D set schema. Now go to the embedded, okay, fine, and then get the query. I have the query here. I'm going to provide you guys in the post so you can use it. So it is not really exciting query. It is simple: select name from the schema, select name as a schema name from sys.schemas, and I'm only selecting the user defined schemas. So these one I am ignoring them, so I'm checking where name is not in like this. So if you want to even have these one, let's say you want to create a report on system objects, and that's one you want to have it, you can have it. So make your list accordingly. I don't really care about these ones, so I'm gonna exclude them. And let's go back here, paste the query, hit OK, and now if you go to the schema names here, parameter, you can send available values, get value from query, dataset, schema, and provide the name of that field. Now if I will preview, you see that it is giving me the drop down. So this is a one awesome feature I like about the parameters, so you can make them dynamic. Next is the column table name. So let's go ahead and create another data set for the table names. So we are going to create a list of the tables. Here I'm going to call this one dset tables embed, and I have the query using the system objects already, so I am getting the table name from information schema.tables and only the base tables. If you are interested to get the views, or you want to filter your, I don't know, if you would have, you have many choices, so I'm not sure you are only interested to see the objects. See, I'm selecting only the base tables. So if you would like to select the views, so remove this part. Let's get the views as well. So we will say where, okay, table schema is equal to schema and order by table name. So views and tables are considered the same thing here. So I'm also, before that I was not selecting the views, but now I'm going to go ahead and select the views as well. So change your query accordingly, whatever you want. And remember that here we have to provide schema @schema name. It should be exactly the same what you have here, so it will cascade. Otherwise it's not going to cascade. So hit OK. Now we go to the table name, and here say available values, get value from query and tables. Fine, and hit OK. Now if you preview your selection, see this is a grayed out. Once you select the schema, this is gonna show only the objects or table in this case related to this schema, because we had @schema in the parameter value. So for the dset tables data set, so select, see we have some of the views even, but now the next part is getting the list of the columns related to the table or the view. So go to design one more time. Let's create a new data set, dset column list or columns. Now go here, we're getting close, so don't worry, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. So here you see that I'm again using information schema.columns, and then I'm saying where table schema is equal to schema and name is equal to @name. So these parameters are very important. These are going to make your query results cascading, so have them in the proper name. So you see name here in the left corner report data pane, so table name and column list. So whatever you have it there, so you have to provide so in the schema name. So you see here I'm providing schema name as it is and the table name as it is. So all right, so good. Now we are all set. Go to column list, and you see that we can have multiple columns for one table. So I'm going to say allow multiple values, available values, and say from the query columns, and hit OK. We are all set here. Go to preview, select a schema, select a table, let's say customer. Now you can select the columns. This is great. The last thing is left to display the data here. So we are going to go to design and bring the matrix. Here the column list will go, here the data values will go, and here the rows will go. So we are going to go ahead and go to our primary or report data that's coming from the store procedure. So you hit bring the R here, bring the column name here, and bring the value here. Let's expand a little bit. To be straightforward, I'm pretty tired of creating this report all the way. So anyways, I hope this will be beneficial to people. So here DBO, now we have a customer, and here we select the columns we want, and now you can see that we have address, ID, and name, and this row 1 to 3, these are the row numbers. We can remove them if we don't like it. So click here, this is the part of the group, so just remove a delete column and only delete column. So hit OK. Now you can bring it in the middle somewhere here. Let's change the color a little bit, so make our report look better. I'm gonna go with the green background, and on the green probably white color. You can select any, it doesn't really matter. More colors, so white, and then make it bold, and if you like italic, fine. And I'm going to change the value to the other font, Calvary or whatever. Alright, so we are all good here. Now we can select any schema. Let's say we go TB Tech Brothers, and then we can select the table here, so total sale, and then next we can select the columns. So this is really good. If let's say tomorrow you create a new view or anything in the TB schema, that will show up here. You don't have to create a report for that. So you see the columns are coming. If I want to see all the columns, I can hit all the columns. Now you can see it brought all the columns. So that's really awesome. Now let's go back one more time, and as you see here, we are saying now we have only one object in TB schema here. We can say create view and call tb.vw, tb.total sale, and that's it. Now if you go back to the report, you can preview. Let's say we will select TB, it will show you that view as well, and now you can select the columns, whatever, so and then see the report. Couple more things, if you would like to add to this report, you can go to design, bring a text box here, and now in the text box you can show from which table this report is coming. Go to the expressions, and then here you're saying you are seeing data for, and then here we can add the schema name, and go to parameters, say schema name, and plus put this period plus, and then go to table name, and that will be, I don't know, it really helps sometime, like if the user would know that from which schema or table it is coming. And preview the report. Let's say we go to this DBO schema this time, go to the customer table, and then we go to the get the ID and name only. These are the two columns we want to get, and you see that you are seeing data for DBO customer and ID and column. Now if I want to go and say total sale, it will refresh columns, select all, and let's refresh. You are seeing data for DBO total sale, and you see all those columns. Again, you want to select TB. Now it's more like a playing, so it doesn't really matter. So you can select the column what you like, refresh, and it will show you. Yeah, so this is how you will be creating this dynamic SSRS report. The bad part about that's what I wanted to tell you guys. Now if you have millions of records, so what is going to happen here in the store procedure? First, it is going to write that tons of records into your temp table. Okay, so we write into temp table. Next, we do unpivot. So to create the only two columns, the column name and the value. So if you have a million rows in this table, and then you have like 10 columns, so think about that. So million multiplied 10, so you will be having two columns, and all the values will be there. So I don't know, like let me show you guys. I want to show you this part. I would like to show you guys so you can see what exactly I'm talking about. So let's alter our store procedure, and now if I will run this store procedure for these three, so let's take this one. This time we are going to run and write the data into the temp tables. So first of all, you will see it will take the data from your table and write into the temp data table and add the row number to it, because that's also important when you are doing unpivot, and we want to have these row numbers because these three columns will become the rows, and we would like to have them, and this row number is going to help because without that we can't really create this matrix here. So now you see that we have 5 total records right here, and now if I will run this part, that's going to unpivot, you will see 14. So if we go back and now take a look on this data, so now you see that we have see for ID 1, name, and address, these are the two columns it's creating. So we had let me put that together and show you guys. First of all, right here, so you had columns, then it build this two columns and have these values as rows. So you see that it took ID as a column name, and then one name as Amir, and did this this is the column name and the value, this is address and this value, and it didn't put the null, so you don't have that. That's why you have 14, because it didn't really need null to put here. And then you see it went to the second record, so you have say ID to name Raza, and there is no address, so it didn't put anything. So it's the same thing for third, it took the ID and put the value 1, name Amir, and XYZ. So you see that it is creating two columns with all those values. So if you have a million of records and then 10 or 15 or 20 column, it was going to take some time to build this whole thing. And then on top of that, when you're going to go to the Ssrs, Ssrs is going to transform this column and value back to your table. So you see that here we selected all these columns and sorry, not sure what happened here. Let me see. Oh, because we have changed the store procedure and we have select queries, that's why. Let's change the store procedure back to the execute, remove the and leave the print part there, put the comments here and execute. So alter our store procedure so it can work. So go back here, now you're good. Let's say you have Tech Brothers and you have total sale, and now when you select all these columns, it is going to take these values, see these column and the value, and translate that into the table. So two, if you go really back here, you see column name and value, that's the only thing you see here, the same thing. And now it's going to translate back to your table. So it's pretty much doing the same way. So from pivoting, it's this was the outcome of the unpivot. So when you will go back, you will do the pivot, and this is what you will see. That's exactly it is showing you here. So it will take some time to work on that part. So if you preview right now, you select sales or TB, select some column or tables. So in my case, I have 10 or 20 records. This doesn't take a whole lot, but in your case, when it comes to millions of records, this can be time-consuming process. So I don't really recommend working with these type of data sets when you have a lot of records. But this is the dirty way to achieve, but I don't have a really other way where we can do this whole thing dynamic. Again, you can, if you are fine with that, maybe you can create your tables in nightly process, and then run your subscriptions or the reports at night, so you are not worried about like, oh, I don't care about the time, but I care about like, okay, I don't have to recreate the report for each of the table, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this way. So that's your choice, but this is one way to handle the things when you have drop downs for users, table names and schemas and everything. All right, thanks very much for watching this video, and once again, I appreciate you guys always listen to me for a long time, and some of the guys, I see the comments, very nice comments. They say they like my voice very much, but I'm just kidding. But I don't know, somehow I like to go in detail, try to explain what I have done here. So I hope this will be helpful. Thanks, bye.